Daily Words of God. What is the influence of darkness? This so-called influence of darkness is the influence of Satan's deception, corruption, binding, and controlling of people. The influence of Satan is an influence that has an aura of death. All those who live under the domain of Satan are doomed to perish. How can you escape from the influence of darkness after gaining faith in God? Once you have sincerely prayed to God, you turn your heart to Him completely, at which point your heart is moved by God's Spirit. You grow willing to give yourself to Him completely, and at this moment you will have escaped from the influence of darkness. If everything man does is that which pleases God and in line with His requirements, then he is someone who lives within the words of God and under His care and protection. If people cannot practice the words of God, if they are always attempting to fool Him, acting in a perfunctory manner toward Him, and not believing in His existence, then these are all people living under the influence of darkness. Men who have not received God's salvation are living under the domain of Satan. That is, they all live under the influence of darkness. Those who do not believe in God are living under the domain of Satan. Even those who believe in God's existence might not necessarily be living in His light. For those who believe in Him may not actually be living within His words, nor be able to submit to God. Man is limited to believing in God, and because he does not have knowledge of God, he is still living within the old rules, among dead words, with a life that is dark and uncertain, neither fully purified by God nor completely gained by Him. Therefore, while it goes without saying that those who do not believe in God are living under the influence of darkness, even those who do believe in God may still be under its influence, for they lack the work of the Holy Spirit. Those who have not received God's grace or mercy, and those who cannot see the work of the Holy Spirit, are all living under the influence of darkness. And most of the time, so are people who merely enjoy the grace of God, yet do not know Him. If a man believes in God, yet spends most of his life living under the influence of darkness, then this man's existence has lost its meaning. And what need is there to mention people who do not believe that God exists? All those who cannot accept God's work, or who accept God's work but are unable to meet His demands, are people living under the influence of darkness. Only those who pursue the truth and are capable of meeting God's demands will receive blessings from Him, and only they will escape from the influence of darkness. Those who have not been released, who are always controlled by certain things, and who are unable to give their hearts to God, are people under Satan's bondage who live within an aura of death. Those who are unfaithful to their own duties, who are unfaithful to God's commission, and who fail to perform their functions at the church, are people living under the influence of darkness. Those who deliberately disturb the church life, who intentionally sow discord between their brothers and sisters, or who form cliques, are people who live deeper still under the influence of darkness in Satan's bondage. Those who have an abnormal relationship with God, who always have extravagant desires, who always want to gain an advantage, and who never seek transformation in their dispositions, are people who live under the influence of darkness. Those who are always sloppy and never serious in their practice of the truth, and who do not seek to meet the will of God, seeking instead only to satisfy their own flesh, are also people who are living under the influence of darkness, shrouded by death. Those who engage in crookedness and deception when working for God, who deal with God in a perfunctory manner, who cheat God, and who always make plans for themselves, are people living under the influence of darkness. All those who cannot sincerely love God, who do not pursue the truth, and who do not focus on transforming their dispositions, are people living under the influence of darkness.